While working in AutoCAD, there are many things that you need to be aware of. The status bar is a sort of billboard that displays information. It's a communication center for you. It's located at the bottom of the screen and stretches all the way across. That's down here. Starts on the left, goes all the way to the right. Each one of those icons and glyphs will give you information. It tells you what things are going on, what things aren't, where you're at, etc. It's a communication center, a heads-up display. We're just going to look at all these and very quickly go through them one at a time. On the left, it may seem kind of obvious what this is. These are your drawing coordinates. And if your tooltips are turned on, you can hover over any of these icons and it will give you the command name or the function name that it represents. As you move your cursor around, you'll see that those coordinates change. So it's telling you where you're at in your drawing. AutoCAD is based on a Cartesian coordinate system, and it's called the World Coordinate System. And it just goes with an X and Y coordinate system, and for AutoCAD LT, and then AutoCAD has an XYZ. So it's constantly telling you where you're at. This will help you keep track of your position. If you need to determine the coordinates of an object in your drawing, you can place your crosshair there. For example, right here, that's where you are. As you move, you can get the coordinates for all of the endpoints for this rectangle. Very handy, very quick and easy to use. Next, you'll see the toggle status icons. We talked about these in a previous section where you can press your F1 keys, F2, F3, etc. to toggle some features off and on. Well, instead of using the function keys, you can also just click on these icons. When they're highlighted with this blue background color, that means they're turned on. When they're just gray, that means they're off. This first button here is for the infer constraints. This is only in AutoCAD. AutoCAD LT doesn't have them, but constraints will control your line work. It will keep things, as you can see here in the parametric tab in the ribbon, locked into position. Keeps them perpendicular, keeps them horizontal, parallel, etc. That turns it off and on. The next one is the snap mode. When that's turned on, you can see AutoCAD will snap to your grid settings. Now those are going to depend on your exact settings and how big they are. The spacing right now is 0.5 units for X and Y. So every half of a unit, I'm snapping into position. If I draw a line, you can see I'm snapping to these points on my grid. Now this is a nice tool to use that will help you draw very accurately with little effort. But it also limits you to drawing on that grid. But if that's what you need to do, then that's a very easy way to draw. That's toggled off and on here. Next one is the grid. You see the grid background here is on right now. I can toggle that off so that it's just a gray background. A lot of times it can be distracting for people, and other times it can be very useful. It's up to you. The next icon is ortho mode. We pressed F8 to toggle that off and on, or you can just click it off and on here. The next one is polar tracking, and then O snaps, or your object snaps, by pressing F3 or clicking here. 3D O snaps in AutoCAD. Your O snap tracking. Typically I will leave this on because I find the tool O snap tracking to be very useful. And all of these, again, we're going to go into greater detail much later on. This one is your dynamic UCS. The dynamic UCS is used in 3D modeling in AutoCAD, but not in AutoCAD LT. It allows you to dynamically or automatically switch your coordinate system to match the face of an object you've picked. The next one is your dynamic input. It is where your crosshairs will display a sort of mini command line function. Now I have it turned off. Now I have it turned on. I like this on because typically I need to know what's going on where I'm drawing at. That makes it useful. I don't have to look in two different places to get the information that I need. So I like to use it. Other users find the extra text and prompts inconvenient and cluttering the drawing. So that's up to you. I suggest you use it, or at least give it a try, but it's up to you. This option will show your line weight. We'll talk about it later, but that has to do with printing. What's it going to look like when you print? How thick are your lines going to be? This will give you an indication on the screen if you have something set up to be a thicker line. This is with the transparency setting. Again, another function we'll talk about later, but you can make objects transparent, translucent, opaque, and you can see through them, especially in a hatch. That works quite well. So if I have this solid, it's at full transparency, meaning it's set to 0, meaning it has no transparency at all. It's full solidness. But as I increase the transparency up to a factor of 90, you can see it kind of fades, and I can see things through it. And if I draw a line through this hatch area, I can see it. Now I can turn that transparency off or on by toggling the switch here, or the button. Any object that has transparency assigned to it will be transparent. The next button is a quick properties. Now, if you press Control 1, it opens up your properties palette. That gives a lot of information on your object. Sometimes you don't need all of that information. But if I pick something, I get my quick properties palette. It's a properties palette for that object. It just gives you a basic 3 or 4 line bit of information. Typically, most of what you're going to need. I can change the color of the object right here. I can change the layer. I can change the line type to whatever I need it to be right here on the fly. And I can close this, or I can press Escape to let go of the object. Each one of these looks a little bit different because it will depend on which type of object you select. And if you pick more than one, then it will only display the properties that they have in common. Lines and circles are 2 different types of objects, so it will display different things. Some people find this useful, and again, other people like to turn it off. It's up to you. I prefer to turn it off because I typically keep my properties palette open all of the time while I'm working. So the quick properties just gets in my way. But if you're not that type of a worker, then it'll probably be very useful. Next is the selection cycling. This can be very useful. As I go to pick something that's on top of something else, I may find this little glyph. You see that little blue box? It's hard to see, but it's showing up. That means there's more than one object here on top of each other. Right here at this intersection, I have this red phantom line, this white continuous line, and the hatch pattern. AutoCAD doesn't really know which one I want, so it will pick whatever's on top. That's according to the draw order. And again, we'll get more detail into that. But if I don't know what to pick, and it's on the bottom, I can't pick it, that's where selection cycling can come in handy. So I left click, and AutoCAD tells me there's a red line, there's a white polyline, and there's a white hatch. Which one of these do I want to pick? I select hatch, and now I can delete it, or whatever it is that I wish to do to it. So that's very useful, especially in a very busy or complex drawing where you have things over the top of each other getting in the way. And let's say I want to edit not the polyline, but the hatch pattern. Well, how do I do that? Well, if I pick with my selection cycling, polyline is on top, so that's what I would have picked if I had that turned off. So let's turn that off real quick. Now if I come here to pick, I'm getting just the polyline. It's a bear. How do I get this hatch pattern? It can be a pain. I don't want that, I want the hatch pattern. So selection cycling can be very useful and very helpful with that. Now this last button here, the annotation monitor. If I turn it on, turn it off, you can see that it adds something over here. Now this annotation monitor will let me know, or will keep track of my different annotation scales. It'll do some other things too. We'll talk about those later on, but it's another toggle switch to turn that off and on. And annotation scaling has to do with text and dimensions specifically. That means that if you have text that has an annotation setting to it, it will automatically scale up or down depending on the scale of your drawing. So if you put your regular text in and you have a scale of that drawing at, let's say, 1/4 inch to a foot, And then you have another drawing of that same thing with that same text, and it's at 1/8 of an inch to a foot. Well, you would have to scale the text or put in multiple text objects unless you use the annotation text. Then you tell the annotation text through AutoCAD settings that, hey, I have text here, and scale up or down the annotation to whatever scale it is just to fit. And you define a paper size so that when you print it out, it's going to be 3/16 of an inch high or whatever it is you want it to be. So that's a real nice feature. Now moving on here, we can toggle right here between model and paper space. Paper space, which we'll talk about here real soon, is where the magic happens. Model space is where your model is drawn, your 3D object. And this tells you where you're at. When you're in paper space, you can work in model space. And this is a quick toggle to get you in and out of there, just in case you need to. You can always go back to model space by clicking on these tabs here. Model space is where your line work goes. Paper space, or in the layout, is where your text, your title block, notes, etc., things like that need to go. These next two options are the quick view layouts and the quick view drawings. This gives you a quick thumbnail view of the layouts in your file, your current file, and it can allow you to quickly navigate to them. A quick view drawings shows you a list of all the files you have open, and then you can quickly get to all of their tabs. If you only have one file open, it doesn't really do you much good, and I only have two here right now. But as you can see, as I highlight one or the other, it shows me the different tabs that they have, and I can get to them very quickly. So those are some quick, cool navigation tools that you can use. And you can use it to get back to where you want to go. We'll look at these a little bit more closely later on. Next, you have the scale of your drawing. This is just the annotation or the visual scale for your drawing. Right now, it's currently set at 1:1, but I can set it at like a 1:40. And if I have different text or line work, as you can see in here, it will scale it up so that it visually appears to be at a different scale. It doesn't change the scale of your drawing. It doesn't enlarge or shrink your objects or anything. It just changes the visual scale for your file that you're currently working in. We'll talk more about that later. These next buttons will control the visibility of that, and then your workspace switching, your toolbar locking positions. You can click this and you can lock them all into place, or you can, let's just let them go free. Let's have free range toolbars here. Let them go where they want or need to. And then you have hardware acceleration on or off, and isolate objects. We'll show and talk about isolating objects later, but if I select and right click something for my default shortcut menu, I can isolate these objects one or two different ways. I can isolate just the object I've selected, or I can hide the object I've selected, or I can turn all this off. So let's hide that circle. It's still there. It's not gone. But you can see here now, my light bulb is now red. It's saying, hey guys, something's happened here. There's some stuff that's hidden from view. You may want to address that before you go too crazy in your drawing. So if you end that, and it comes back, and it's good again. Then over here, this little button, it's the application status bar. I can turn these things on or off however I want. Set up some of my tray setting objects. Can display the notifications that are going to pop up when you do a print. It'll say, hey, your print's done. So you can go over it. If that's annoying to you, then you don't have to turn that on. And then here is your clean screen. Click that, cleans up your screen. Gets rid of a lot of the gobbledygook that's on here that you may or may not need, so that you can just draw in a larger area. There are two ways to get that on and off. You can just click the box again, or press Control and 0. And that puts everything back. So the status bar, as you can see, is a big deal. And a lot of times, most of the things on here are just there and you're not even looking at them. But it's a quick look to tell you what's on, what's off, how to interact with AutoCAD, turn things off and on, and get a quick idea of what's going on certain aspects to your drawing. So it visually informs you of these things, which settings are on, which settings are off. And it gives you easy access and control There are two drawing spaces in every AutoCAD file. They are model space and paper space. Paper space was introduced in AutoCAD Release 11. AutoCAD 2013 is the 27th release of AutoCAD. So as you can see, paper space has been around for a long time. I'm not sure exactly which version or which release of AutoCAD LT 2013 is, but it's been around for a while too. And even though paper space has been around since 1990, which was when R11 was released, it still causes trouble for many users today. Understanding the purposes of each drawing space is a fundamental need when creating drawings in AutoCAD. Right now I want to keep it simple, and I just want to introduce you to these two working environments. Just remember, keep it in mind that model space is where your drawing objects go, and paper space is where your paper objects go. There are exceptions to these rules, of course, from time to time, but generally speaking, that's the rule of thumb. If you were to create a drawing with pencil and paper, you would start with a drawing border and a title block and then put your drawing inside it. AutoCAD does the exact same thing, but in reverse. You create your drawing objects or your model in model space. They can be 2D or 3D objects if you're working with AutoCAD. Then you switch to paper space and add your drawing border and your title block. Then you add your notes, your dimensions, your text, your details, your callouts, etc. Paper space is for your annotation, especially so if you're going to create more than one sheet in a file. There can only be one model space tab in any given file, but you can have almost as many paper space tabs in your file as you need. However, it's a good idea to limit them. There are a lot of reasons for that. If you have to scroll through paper space tabs to see them all, then you probably have too many. By default, the template files typically come in with a model space and a layout 1 and layout 2 tab. When you approach drawing in AutoCAD, think of your line work as data in a database. That data belongs in model space where you can access it, where it's raw. Paper space is where you will display this data in your drawing. You reference the data through what's called a viewport. It's this box here. This is a viewport. It's a portal to model space that gives you a view for your drawing. I double-click inside the viewport to activate it, and there I have complete control of how it will be displayed visually. However it's displayed in model space is one thing, but here in my paper space layout tab, I can display it however I need to. And in my second or in another viewport, I can display it in an even different way. Therefore, I can take the basic data of one model and make a multitude of different drawings with it. So remember, this viewport references the data from model space. Just think of it as a window to model space. Once I'm here, I can annotate this all I want. I can add dimensions to it. And then I can go into my other drawing and dimension it in a different way. Same model, same line work, but two different drawings. This allows you to create multiple drawings from one basic set of line work or data. One of the biggest benefits to annotating in paper space is that you can create multiple viewports in one file. In model space, you get one shot at making your drawing. You can annotate all you want in model space, and that's perfectly fine, but everything you do in model space will go to your viewport, and you'll have to deal with that. There are certain things you can do. You can use different layers. You can use annotative text. These things will help you out a lot, and there are times when it is appropriate to put text and notations in model space. There are also times where it's inappropriate or acceptable to put line work in paper space. We'll talk about those more in depth later because I want to make sure you really understand these differences because they will help you to create wonderful drawings and wonderful files that many people can go and use and understand how they're working with very little effort. Or you can do things in a bad way and make things difficult on yourself and for other people. But for now, just keep it very simple. Model spaces for your line work, paper space. When you work with AutoCAD, you will often find it useful to have more than one drawing file open at a time. And some of those drawings will have multiple drawing tabs or paper space tabs in them. Navigating through that mess can be difficult and sluggish. How do you know which drawing you need or what tab you need, especially if they aren't your files? A very quick method of switching through open drawings is by pressing Control and Tab at the same time. I have two files open now, just this one and another blank one. But if I press Control and Tab at the same time, it will toggle me through my open files. I keep pressing and it will take me back and forth. Now, I can also press Control Shift Tab and that will reverse the direction that I'm traveling through. I only have two files open right now, so the direction is irrelevant. But if we had 3 or 4, then you'd get the idea. But what if you have, let's say, 10 drawings open, and each one of them has 5 tabs? And plus, when you press Control and Tab at the same time, it only takes you to the current layout tab that you had open last in that file. So what if it's the wrong one? Okay, there's another way to get around this. You can also press Control and Page Up to toggle through your current drawing. You can also hit Page Down. Page Down will take you through your tabs. Page Up will take you in the opposite direction. So that's one way to get through your different layout tabs in your file that you have currently open. The Control tab is real easy to do. The Page Up and Page Down can be a little cumbersome. Let's open up a drawing with multiple tabs. In fact, we'll open up several of them here. I'll just go through my recent files list and pick a couple of them. This will work nicely. Okay, there are two tools that are very similar to each other, and we kind of took a brief look at them in a previous section where we talked about the status bar controls. They are quick view layouts and quick view drawings. So let's open up a drawing that has multiple tabs in it. In fact, all that I've opened have them. And you can open up any files or you can just watch what's going on here. Right here is the button on the status bar on the bottom of your screen, the quick view layouts. And to the right of that is the quick view drawings. If I pick it, it will show me all the tabs available for the drawing that I have open now. And I can quickly pick one or the other and go to it. The current one will be highlighted with this green box and the name is bold. So now I know what I'm looking at. And when I go to the quick view drawings, pick it, the left click, it shows me all the files that I have opened. Of course, the one that is bold and the one with the green box is the current drawing. Now I can go to one of the others or any of the other files and then go up to their paper space tabs and I can go directly to it, or a model space tab, as in this case. So there are two sets of previews, one for the file itself and one for the tabs in that file. Now, as I'm working in these, I have some controls of what I can do. I can pin this by clicking here on the left. So this is always going to be open. Now, I don't know that you'd really want to do this, to be quite honest, but you have the option. Maybe you want to quickly review some drawings and you have them all open and you want to be able to jump around in them very quickly. Then you may want to do that. You can also, as I just showed you by accident, click on a plot button so you can print your drawing or publish. We'll talk about publishing later. Publishing is a big batch plotting when you want to print more than one drawing at a time. You can do that. You can also open files here, start a new file, or close the quick view drawings option altogether. So that's one way to quickly navigate through your files that you have open and through all the drawing tabs that are available to them with a visual interface. Now that we've taken the time to introduce you to AutoCAD's interface, you need to know how to work within AutoCAD. One of the most basic yet essential operations in AutoCAD is to start a file. You can't do anything without the right drawing. There are two methods to take here. One is to start a file that is brand new. The other is to open an existing file. Let's start with what might be the easier of the two, and that's to open an existing file. In fact, it's so easy, you've already done it. AutoCAD has several ways to start a command. You can use the ribbon, the command line, toolbar, or the application menu. Opening a file is no different. You can go to the application menu, the big red A, up here in the top left hand of the screen. Click it, then go to Open. You can open a drawing from a hard drive or a network drive. You can open one from the cloud, which is in your Autodesk 360 account. You can open a sheet set, a DGN file type, or one of the sample files that Autodesk provides. You can also go to the Quick Access toolbar and click on this folder icon, which is for the Open command. Or you can just type Open on the command line and press Enter. All of these methods will bring you to this same interface window. You have other files or folders in which you can go to look. You can click on the arrow here and browse to a specific folder. You can go backwards, you can go up, you can create a new folder, etc. So you can do a lot while you're opening a file. You can control the file type of what you're looking for. These are just different file types that AutoCAD can understand. The one you're going to use 90% of the time will be the DWG file. Here's a file here that I've already made and put into our project folder. I'm going to open it. So you just browse to the file and then click Open, and that will open up the file that you want to access. See, very simple. You can also go to your Windows Explorer and double click on a file there, and it will automatically open up in AutoCAD. For example, if I browse to a folder, I can find it right here. If I double click it, it will open up in AutoCAD. Or you can right click and select Open. I already have this file open, so it's going to give me a hard time. But that's another method that you can use. If AutoCAD is closed and you do that, it will automatically start AutoCAD and then open the file. So you can do a couple of steps with just a few clicks if you'd like. You can also open a file through the application menu by coming to your recent files list here. Just find the file you want and click it, and it will open it up wherever it's located. Either method that you pick to open a file will have the same results. So go ahead and give it a try, and I'll be here waiting for you, and then we can go on and show you how to start a brand new file. Okay, now that our file is open, we want to start a new file. If you're working on a new project or you need a new file for your current project, this is what you'll do. So don't worry, it's really just as easy. Only this time you have a few choices to make. When you turn AutoCAD on, it opens up a brand new blank file based on the default template file. If that's okay with you, then your job is done. You save the file as needed and start drawing. Because of this, many companies will make their default template file as their company template file, or vice versa. Right now, we just want to learn the basics of using AutoCAD, so we won't bother you with how to set all that up. But the default template file is good enough for right now and will serve the majority of the needs for us in this training session. So if you have a template file that you want to use, and AutoCAD comes with several if you don't, then you can just choose which one of those files to use. To start a new file, go to the application menu, click it, and go to New. Right here, it will start a new AutoCAD file. Or you can go and make a new drawing, or you can make a new sheet set. Sheet sets are really cool and very powerful. It's a system built within AutoCAD to help you manage all of your drawings for a project. We're not going to talk about that right now. Right now, we just need to know how to make a file. So just click on the drawing. Now you can also go up to the Quick Access toolbar and click on the New icon. This will bring up the same thing. Or, again, you can type in the word New, N-E-W, on the command line. Now this brings up your Select Template Windows interface. There are a lot of different template files here. The default is the ACAD.dwt. Now if you want to work in some 3D, you probably want to choose this one. It has other settings that are preset that you will typically want to use while working in 3D. And these other two up here have plot styles or printing settings that are already set up for you. And these other ones, ACAD ISO and ACAD ISO 3D, are set up to work with an ISO style type of a drawing. A lot of settings that you need to do or need to create your drawing with are already preset for those. So if you're using ISO standards, you may want to try out one of these template files. And again, you have the 2D or the 3D, and you have them with or without plot styles. These last 4 details here are used with the tutorials that come with AutoCAD. These are architectural and manufacturing or mechanical drawing types. They also come in imperial units or in metric units. So the imperial are set to like feet or inches, and the metric are typically a millimeter, centimeter, meter type setting. For the majority of things that we're going to do, we're going to use the ACAD.dwt template file. Select it so that it's highlighted, click open. And that's it. That's a lot of talking for that. You're going to go and start it, go new, and then pick the DWT file, and then it will open it up. It gives it a temporary name. I've already had a drawing1.dwg started, so it adds onto the list. So if I were to do new again, it would call it drawing 3. And it won't matter which one of these I select, it's going to do the same thing. And you can also double click on the file that you want to use to start it, instead of selecting it and going down to the open option. Either one's fine. I tend to double click it because I'm lazy and don't want to move my mouse when I don't have to. Template files have a different format than regular AutoCAD files. You can tell them apart by their file extensions, so you probably noticed that. A regular AutoCAD file has a DWG file extension, while a template file has a DWT. In all honesty, you could use a regular DWG file as your template if you wanted to. Just open it as you would any existing file and have at it. The danger with doing that, though, is that when you save the file, any changes made, well, they'll be saved to your template. And so the next time you go to start a new file, you may have project-specific information in there, or maybe there's something missing that you deleted because for your drawing file, you didn't need it. So try not to do that. Make sure that if you are using a DWG file, you first copy it and put it into your proper folder, or when you open it, perform a save as immediately. That way you're not working in that template file. That's the nice thing about DWT files. As long as you open a DWT file with a new command, you can't override the template file. So my suggestion is to use a good CAD practice of always using the new command. Press enter, find the template you want, open it up, and now I can't save this file. I know that sounds kind of scary. Like, what do you mean you can't save your file? Well, if I go and click save or type in the word save, AutoCAD won't let me. It just says, hey, where do you want to save it and what do you want to call this file? It will you start it, or I can replace that. But I have to save it somewhere else. I'm not going to override my template file, and that's exactly what I want. Your template file needs to stay untouched, and not messed up. You can save the template file, though, if you want to make one. And to do that, you would use the open command and switch your file types from DWG to DWT. And now you're going to open the file. See at the top it says acad.dwt. Now I can add things to my template file so that they will always be there. And if I hit save, it will save the file. So be careful doing this. Don't use the open command to start a new file. Use the new command. Just keep that in mind. Using template files to start your drawing is one of the best CAD practices that you will ever have. That is because you can set up a template file with plotter settings, layers, blocks, little details that you're going to use all the time. Otherwise, you're going to have to customize your drawings every time that you make a new one. But this process of using a template file will ensure that all of your drawings work properly and you only have to set them up once. It's very possible and very likely that you're going to have a picky client and they want things just so. Well, you can set up a template file that you will use for all of their drawings. And that will save you time, effort, and work. And remember, a template file can have anything in it that you might want. Special notes, a title block, or any other standard company, like sticker or logo. Templates make you work faster by doing your work for you ahead of time. Remember that the less you have to do, the more you can get done in less time. Close or exit. They're similar yet different, of course. If you have several files open and you close, then only the current file will go away. On the other hand, if you type in exit, every file will close, and so will AutoCAD. So close is to close your file, the current one, and exit is to leave AutoCAD, therefore closing all of your other files. There's also a close all command that will shut down all of your files but leave AutoCAD open. Just type in close all. With either of these commands, if you have made changes to the file but haven't saved the file yet, AutoCAD will ask you if you want to save them. Now, a change in AutoCAD, even for this case, could be a simple thing as panning your drawing or zooming in or out. So if you open the file and zoomed out or just panned, that's a change from AutoCAD's perspective because you're changing the view. So that may come into an account. You can click no if you don't want to save any of the changes, or just click yes. Clicking the cancel option will just stop the closing process and put you back into your drawing where you were. You can also click on the X right here in the top right corner. This will close the file. So if I click it, say no, I don't want to save changes in this case, it closes that file and opens up one of my other files that I'm currently accessing. If you don't have anything opened, for example, if I continue to close all of these, this is what you'll get. You get a top bar here, no command line, but you can always go to File Open or File New. So that's what you'll get. While you are working, and long before you are through for the day, you need to save your work. One of the most important tips that I can give you is to save your work, save your work, save your work, save your work. Remember, you must save early and you must save often. Get into the habit of saving every 5 to 10 minutes. AutoCAD has an autosave feature, but I found it to be unreliable, if it ever works really. So there are several ways to save a file. You can click on the Save button in the Quick Access toolbar, which is right here. That will save your file. When you do save your file, AutoCAD will tell you that you've saved it here in the command line. If you click the Save As button, it will open up a prompt in your window and it will ask you what you want to call it and where you want to save it. Just type all that information in and click Save. So really that's the Save command. It's also the Save As. But the other one is the Q Save. A Q Save is what you want to do. Just press Enter. It will save the file that you're working in at its current location with its current name and overwrite whatever was there before. So if you don't want to save a history of your files and you just want to save it like it is very quickly, then do that. Do the Q Save. And the Q Save is the same as clicking on the Save button right here. As you can see, it says Save. Saves the current drawing. It's also the Q Save. You can also come to the application menu, click Save, which is a Q Save, or Save As. Now, since we're working in Windows-based AutoCAD, you can also press Control and S at the same time. That's a Q Save. That's what I do. While I'm working, I'm drawing lines, circles, trims, edits, copies, paste, whatever. Control S. More lines, some dimensions, I'm moving, I'm zooming, I'm panning, Control S. I've gotten myself into the habit of using Control and S on the keyboard very regularly. It has saved me time and time again because AutoCAD will crash. You will lose your work. I was working with a gentleman the other day when he had an issue, and while I was trying to help him, all of a sudden AutoCAD just crashed. Well, he panicked because it had been over 3 hours since he had saved. He lost nearly a half day's worth of work, and it was going to take him another 3 hours to redo what he had done. So it took him all day to do what should have been done in a half a day. That's how important saving is. When working with objects in AutoCAD, you will need to select items that are already there. Most drawings will require that you select something. There are many different ways to select objects and to make sure you are selecting the right one. When you're using an editing command, you will see a prompt on the command line that says select objects. So if we have a circle and we want to do something to it, like copy, the command prompt on the command line and in your dynamic input say select objects. They aren't all listed here, but there are over a dozen options or so for you to be able to choose from when you want to make a selection, for an object or objects. One method is to pick the object. We've selected it. You can tell you've selected it because it's been highlighted and dashed. I can zoom in here, but it still has the same type of dashed spacing. That's been selected. Now, if I press Escape key, I cancel my command and it's been unselected. That's pretty straightforward. And when there's only one or two objects, it's pretty easy to go and literally pick everything. So let's start the copy command. Pick it, press enter. Now, since we're copying, I need a base point, and now I tell it where to place it. Now I have several circles in my command. Press enter to close off the copy command. Now what if I want to pick, all of these, or maybe just, these three. So if I want to copy it again, or in this case, let's say I want to erase. I need to select my objects. I can pick them one at a time and enter. Undo that. Control Z is a great way to quickly undo something. Or you can come up to your quick access toolbar. So the more objects you have to pick, the more you have to click. Now remember, my theory on CAD here is that the less you do, the more you can get done. So two methods you can use here would be to use a window or a crossing window method. Okay, so let's say we want to erase again. Press enter, or the erase command is right here on the ribbon. Now, I can pick all of these objects with just 2 clicks, or I can pick them one at a time. As you hover your mouse over an object to be selected, AutoCAD will highlight it, say, hey, this is what you're picking. That's how you know that you're picking the right object or not. One thing you can do is called a window. I pick a point here just in space, and you can see I have 2 different colored windows. This is your window selection method, and there are 2 methods right here available to us. As I move my mouse to the right, up or down of my first point, I get a blue box with a solid boundary around it. This is your window selection. Anything that is fully enclosed inside that window will be selected. So I'm going to get this circle and this circle in my selection. Watch. There you go. See, they were the only ones that were completely enclosed in that blue square area. That's your window. Now the other option was a crossing window selection. So I can pick somewhere, and when I move to the left of that selection, up or down, I get a green box with a dashed line. Now that means that anything that's completely inside that square will be picked, as well as anything that square crosses through. So now I'm going to pick this circle, this circle, this circle, and then this one on the bottom. The only one that's completely enclosed in my rectangular shape is the bottom circle, but yet all 4 will be selected. They will be added to my selection of these other 2 objects. These are your 2 main selection methods, your window and your crossing window. The third one is probably the individual object selection itself. So you can very quickly pick everything with 2 clicks. That's very handy. Sometimes though, you have to get fancy and you want to pick just the right objects. If you want to select all the objects in your file, for whatever reason, you can just start your command and then type in the word all. This will pick everything, and it will tell you on the command line how many objects you found or were selected. In this case, there's 8. So that's another way. Another really cool selection method works just like your crossing window selection, but instead of a polyline or square or rectangle, it's just a straight line. So you start your command, and you hit the letter F for fence. Press enter. And now you just connect the dots. Pick anywhere, and you have this crossing line. Anywhere that crossing line goes, the object will be selected. So I can pick these three objects. I'm going to ignore this one, pick that one, and that one. So everywhere that line goes through, those are the objects that I'm going to select. And the other three that I haven't crossed through with my fence won't be picked. I press enter, and they're gone. So when you are in a tight configuration or you have a lot going on, you can use the fence option. Hit Control Z again to undo that erase. Now this works just like the crossing window, except that you make a line, not a box. There's another one called the W polygon and the C polygon methods. These create a windowed or crossing polygon. So it's kind of a hybrid of your crossing window or window selection with a fence. These methods will allow you to create a multi-sided object as your selection area instead of a box. In all honesty and fairness though, I almost never use these methods myself because the window, the crossing, the fence, and the single selection will fit almost all of my needs. But we'll try them out anyway, just to demonstrate. Press erase and then WP. Now you just draw your polygon. So I can draw a really crazy shape. As you can see, anything inside will be selected. And right now, I have nothing that's inside my window because I've made a weird shape. So now the only thing that's going to be erased will be this circle here. So that's the WP selection. The other selection option is the C polygon for crossing window polygon. If I type in CP, now you can see I have my selection options here. Anything that crosses through will be picked. There you go. And as you saw there as well, I can use any combination of these selection methods. I can keep adding to my selection until I've picked everything I need. So sometimes you may want to just pick an object, and then do a window, whatever your needs might be. And then you can do a fence, etc. But sometimes you pick too many things and you need to remove these items from your selection. It happens all the time. There are two ways to do this. Once you've made your selection, let's just say I've picked everything. And I say, oh, I need to take the one out right in the middle, this guy. How do I get rid of it? Hit the letter R for remove. Press enter, and now pick. Now it's out of my selection. You see, it's not highlighted, it's not dashed. Everything else here is. Now you have to turn this feature off though, if you want to add more items. And you can use all of your regular selection methods that you use to add things to it with. So you hit R for remove, and now you want to type A for add. So now that I've typed in A for add, I can start adding objects back to my selection set. That's one method, the R method. And the second method, which is my preferred method, is to just hold down the Shift key. So again, if I have everything picked, the Shift key, and then I just pick my other objects. Let go of the Shift key, and I can start adding objects back. I like that because I only have to do a couple of steps, and I can do it on the fly. So I can remove, let go of the Shift key and start adding again. So your Shift key is very helpful there. There are many times when you make a selection and finish a command, and now you need to use that same selection set for whatever reason. So let's say I'm going to copy these three circles. Press enter, and I've copied them. Now let's say I want to delete those three, or you know what, I need to copy some more of those objects. Start the copy command again, press enter, and then hit P. P will select your previously selected objects. That's very nice. I don't have to figure out exactly which ones that I picked before. I can just start back where I was. Many times you're going to find that selecting the right object is difficult. And this could be because there are several objects on top of each other, or that they're just so close to each other you can't get the right one. So let's start the copy command again, and I'm going to go with the previous. I'm going to pick the center of this circle. I'm going to add them on top of these sets of circles. Now, which one do I want to delete? I don't want to delete both of them, but I want to delete the other one. There are a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can cycle through the objects, which is what you want to do. To do this, place your crosshair over the object, just like I've done here. You'll see it highlighted, and then hold the Shift key down and press the space bar. You can see it kind of flashes there. That will toggle through the different objects. So you'll get to pick the one that you want. You can also turn on what's called selection cycling, which is right here in your status bar. Turn that on, and when you hover over objects that have more than one object on top or underneath, you'll get that little blue glyph that you see in the top right corner of my crosshairs. It says, hey, there's more than one object here. So when I pick the object, it'll say, hey, there are two circles. Which one do you want? You pick the one you want and start your command. And now there are only two objects here. One way to test if there are more than one object over the top of each other is by just selecting them. You can select objects before you start your command. That's also useful. Work whichever way you want. I find that I have developed a work habit of selecting objects, then performing my command. You can do it either way. It really doesn't make much difference. When I select here, I only have one object, and I know I only have one object because I've moved it. If you execute a command like copy or erase, and you pick it, it says one object found. Now if I go here, I'll say 2 found, 3 total. So I have 3 objects in total selected. And as I add to that selection, the total increases. If you press the F2 button, you'll get your text screen here and it will show you how many you have selected. So you'll know what's going on. Remember, you can select your objects before you start your command, or you can start the command and then select it. It's up to you.